I don't know what it is. Actually, I do know what it is, and I'm going to share that in this video. But whenever a Green Bay Packers player, coach, general manager in this case talks crap about the Lions, it really bothers us Lions fans. And we'll get into that. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We talk all about the Detroit Lions. If this is your first time, don't subscribe yet. Watch a couple videos before you decide. But if you've been watching videos since we've started this a couple years ago and you haven't subscribed, that'd be awesome if you do that. We're trying to get 20,000 subs. Just a goal of ours. That'd be pretty awesome. So subscribe if you haven't and you've been watching us. Okay, the Lions and the Green Bay Packers. Something about the Green Bay Packers, and we'll get into it. Whenever they say something about the Lions, it's just like, come on. So here's what their general manager had to say. I don't know if he's a GM. Yeah, he's their GM. Brian Gutekunst had to say about the Lions. So he was asked what it's like kind of chasing the Lions. Fair question, because the Lions won the division. And he says, oh, yeah, around here, we've never hung banners for division championships, which we know the Lions hung a banner because they won the division. And he's acting like we don't do that. It's never been about that, which is just, that is so false. You win the division. That's what you're trying to do. And then you get a home playoff game. You're usually a 1 seed, a 2 seed, and you're trying to go from there. It's a nice starting point. But I think we're always looking for bigger things. Interesting. So it's like, was that a shot at the Lions? So a Packers beat writer said, I don't think he was taking a shot, and then he put a picture of the Lions hanging a banner because they won the division. So if you win the division, you hang a banner. It shows the years that you won the division. I don't see what's up with that. So this guy, it's like, come on. Are you serious? It's hard to win the division. Lions know that. Haven't won it in so long, blah, blah, blah. But come on. So remember, Aaron Rodgers, this is just, I'll go back to some trash talks over the years. Aaron Rodgers dropped this line. Remember when he lost the Lions when we were 1-6 and really turned our franchise around in this game, which is just beautiful. You can't lose a game like that against that team. That team is just like, oh, this guy, unbelievable. The Packers with their weird uniforms, Northern Wisconsin, no owner franchise. This guy that's just won a ton against the Lions. Well, not as much as you might think. We'll look at that in a second. But Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, come on. So it got me thinking. The Packers, and this is why it bothers us so much, the Packers view us as a lesser franchise, just less. And it's like, oh, yeah, you know what? You guys really dominated us over the last 10 years. And it's like, absolutely. Like, you should be able to say that. You've really just dominated us. You know, we've had Matt Patricia and the whole thing. No, look at this. The Packers versus the Lions. The record in the last 10 years, the Detroit Lions are 10-10 versus the Packers in the last 10 years. In fact, the Lions are 4-1 in the last 5 games. You can see down here. And it's like, huh, interesting. There's been some weird streaks both ways. Lions, you can see it right here. Back and forth. Packers won 3 in a row in 2015, 16, 17. And then Lions won 4 in a row, oddly enough, and kind of like the start of the Patricia era there, which is weird. Then Green Bay won 5 in a row. That was hard of the Patricia. There we go. That makes more sense. And then 4-1. Okay. So it's just, let me know in the comments if I'm crazy on this or if it's like, nah, whatever. I don't think it was that big a deal. Or is it just annoying? Just so annoying when the Packers talk any sort of crap. And let me know in the comments as well, who's your most hated NFC North team? For me, it's the Bears and then the Packers. I think almost everybody will say that. Bears, Packers, Bears, one combination of that. The Vikings is just like, you know what? Vikings are always never bad, never good, just kind of there. Have a lot of good battles with them, go back and forth. Nothing there with the Vikings. But Bears, Packers, let me know in the comments. Another interesting thing I saw was Penei Sewell. We put in the comments the other day, it's like, who's one player on our team that we just couldn't do without? Who was the most important player on the Lions team aside from Jared Goff, and put a couple different answers up there. Amon-Ra, Hutchinson, Panay, Frank, and Panay. And that's a very impossible question, by the way. I realize that. But Panay Sewell just proving more and more as the season kind of ends and numbers come out how good he is. Second year pros, PFF highest graded offensive tackle, but also led all tackles in total snap counts. I love that. Shows that he just doesn't get injured, and there's something to that. He played in the regular season and playoffs. In all, he allowed 1 sack. So right there, he led all tackles in total snap counts and had just 1 sack and committed just 7 penalties. He had a 95 run blocking grade, which is as elite as it gets, only behind the untouchable 2021 season of Trent Williams, who had a 97 grade, right? So 95 is like all time, only behind a couple of just all time seasons since 2008. This dude is unbelievable. So he's entering his 4th year. So it said his 2nd year, which was really his 3rd year. So, right. So this will be his 4th year. But the Lions have the option to add a 5th year because he was a 1st-round draft pick. Obviously, based on the grades above, they'd be smart to lock him in ASAP, but throw in his incredible leadership skills at just 23 years old. Remember that when we drafted him, he was 20. He didn't play when he was at Oregon his senior year because of COVID, or his junior year, I think it would have been. Anyway, he goes from basically playing high school football right into the pros. And remember, he went from right tackle to left tackle his rookie year's first game. And I believe that was against San Fran and the Bosa. And in Bosa, he went from right tackle to left tackle. He's like 19. And there he is going against Bosa, just stonewalling him. And you're like, what the heck? So he's been in here for a long time, and he's still only 23 years old. Panay Sewell, the leadership from the beginning, he was like, I'm going to be the leader of this team. So as Frank, as Taylor Decker move on at some point, it's just like, this is Panay's team, and they love him. They play hard for him. He's so good in every way. It's crazy. So I love it. A couple more notes that I thought were interesting was, let me get to it really quick. A couple of folks expressed interest in L'Jarius Sneed. Mike Payton dives into what that would entail. And so Sneed is a guy that kind of wants out. He can either get franchised or the Chiefs can trade him. And we were looking at what it would take to get him. There's thoughts you need a 1st round. There's thoughts you might need a 2nd round. The reason it's so intriguing is because the Lions are in desperate need of an elite corner. And where do you get those? That's just what you have to ask yourself. Can you get one in the draft? I don't know. Can you get one in free agency? I don't think so. You have to go acquire one. So you would use a pick on a corner anyway. So if you gave him your 2nd round pick, locked him up to a deal, I don't know what that's the only thing. You just don't know what that would look like money wise per year. What does that contract look like? But I am good giving up a draft pick for a major need, because you just expedite that process so much quicker than if you're going to draft somebody in the 2nd round, try to see what they've got this year, but next year will really be the year. It's like, man, we saw just how hard it is to play defense without 2 good corners. We had one good corner. I would just say good. Just a good corner in Cam Sutton. I mean, he had his moments, no question, but you remember the first half of the year, you never heard his name. No one was challenging him. It was kind of weird how that ended up happening, but then it was like nobody. I mean, we just did not have another corner. So we really need 3 good corners, or 1 elite corner and 2 good corners, or you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no depth, there's nobody there. So Sneed is a guy that's just tough, physical, and that's what the Lions' new secondary coach said. He's like, he's all about tackling of all things. It's like, if you don't tackle, you don't play. And his point is, I think if you're tackling well, if you're physical, you'll be physical. in coverage. We have to be, there's no presence in our secondary. And on the corners, excuse me, because you saw the difference when Iffy Melifonwu came in, gave us some physicality versus Tracy Walker. I mean, just such a difference. You got to have the players. It's crazy. Corner is no different. So I would be fine with saying, hey, what do we need to give up for him, and what would that cost us? So if we go to A to Z Sports to kind of break that down, here's what it's kind of looking like. What would a tag and trade scenario for Sneed look like? And again, this is A to Z Sports. Appreciate them for putting this article together. And first, acknowledge there's a lot of moving parts with this. Sneed would be franchise tagged and then traded with a very real expectation that he would sign a long-term deal with wherever he goes. So that's number one. You're going to sign him. It's not just you're giving up money, but you have to give it to him. Our staff cap specialist projected a new deal for Sneed this year would be a 4-year, $65 million year, $16 million per year. Perfect. I was thinking about $15 million. $35 million of that would be guaranteed. Now, as far as a trade, what would they have to give up? The Packers traded Rasul Douglas for a 5th-round pick to the Bills, and a 5th-round pick to the Bills for a 3rd-round pick. Another one is trading 2024 3rd-round pick and tight end Hunter Long to the Rams for Jalen Ramsey. So here's kind of more like what it would be. That's more likely going to be rare here, a 3rd-round pick. The Lions do have an extra 3rd-round pick that they got in the Hockenson trade. So how realistically or how interested would they be realistically? Probably not. Acquiring Sneed as a free agent is one thing, but having to now give away draft assets and then pay him on top of that might not be something that the Lions want to do. And that's just it. And they have to decide that. Now, Brad Holmes was just recently awarded, him and his team were recently awarded best draft class in 2023. They were voted that by his peers. So we have to remember, and it's hard for me to remember this, is that the Lions have an incredibly good GM, talent evaluator, scouts. And so you have to build through the draft. We've seen that. We know that. Drafting. That's where it is. That's where it has to be. That's where everything kind of stems off that. Younger, cheaper, better, more flexibility. Draft. So to give up a draft pick in 3rd round and have to pay a guy that's older, it just isn't in the model for Brad Holmes. And we have to remember that Brad Holmes can draft. So let him do his thing. If anything, what I've learned is like, man, trade back, get more draft picks. Like, it's so valuable to have draft picks when you can draft well. So again, you look back at last year, Brian Branch, Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, all those guys were immediate. I mean, we don't make the playoffs without those guys. Sam Laporta, the amount of big catches he made and the fact that we were living and dying on if he was going to be able to play in the playoffs just tells you everything about Sam Laporta. So Sam Laporta is huge. Brian Branch is so. We have to trust that Brad Holmes can get more draft picks and get the right draft picks and players with the draft picks. And we have to be confident in that. So again, if you're new to the channel, hope you subscribe, watch a couple more videos, but now's the time to subscribe because we're looking at drafts, free agencies, a lot of moving parts coming. The Lions, it's just fun now because Brad Holmes, you can just trust him. I mean, he's going to do stuff that we're not really sure about on the surface, but it's like, oh yeah, that was a good move. So let me know your thoughts in the comments and we'll see all of you on the next one.